Good evening. You're watching To The Point. I'm Preeti Chaudhary. Lots went down where Parliament was concerned. In fact, not much went down because of all that went down in Parliament. The Prime Minister was to speak at 5 p.m. That didn't quite happen. A face-off between the Treasury benches and the opposition MPs resulted in an adjournment of both houses. We're going to get down to that. All right, let's quickly get our viewers up to speed on what went down in Parliament. The Prime Minister today was supposed to speak where the budget session is concerned. His speech was at 5 p.m., but that speech didn't happen, primarily because the Parliament was adjourned amidst a massive ruckus, chaos and a face-off between the Treasury benches and the opposition MPs. And in midst of all of this, fair bits happened outside the Parliament as well. You had Ravneet Singh Bittu and the leader of opposition, Rahul Gandhi, getting into a verbal duel. Mind you, Ravneet Singh Bittu is from the Congress who went and switched to the BJP.
सदन के अंदर
और किस तरह से भारत के पहले प्रधानमंत्री अय्याशी कर रहे थे.
Another day, another disruption, another washout. Prime Minister Narendra Modi was scheduled to address the Lok Sabha on Wednesday evening. The House was first adjourned till 5 p.m. The Prime Minister was expected to speak when proceedings resumed. But barely a minute after the House reconvened, it was adjourned for the day. No statement, no address, only chaos. The reason was relentless disruptions that brought the House to a standstill. Opposition MPs from the Congress, Trinamool Congress and the Samajwadi Party entered the House armed with posters and slogans. As soon as the chair took position, members rushed into the well. The shouting intensified. Posters stayed aloft. The inevitable followed. The House was adjourned.
सभापति के कुर्सी पे बैठे थे.
डर गए, आने से डर गए सदन में. और उनके रेल मंत्री और निशिकांत जी तो बुलेट ट्रेन की तरह भागे. लड़कियों को निशिकांत जी कई तरह का आरोप भी लगाया.
चलेगा क्या आज प्राइम मिनिस्टर को?
The chaos followed a clear warning. When questioned if the House will be allowed to function, Priyanka Gandhi said, "देखिए क्या होता है."
भैया जी हाउस चलेगा क्या आज प्राइम मिनिस्टर को बोलने का मौका देगा क्या विपक्ष?
आप देखिए क्या होता है.
Hours earlier, a personal flashpoint erupted at Parliament's Makar Dwar. Union Minister Ravneet Singh Bittu and the leader of opposition Rahul Gandhi clashed publicly.
Here is a traitor walking right by. Take a look at the face. That's what it looks like. Hello, brother. My traitor friend.
Bittu struck back sharply, branding Rahul Gandhi and protesting MPs as Desh ke dushman.
ठीक है, उनका मेरे से कोई नाराजगी पर्सनल हो सकती है. मेरे मान मर्यादा के लिए मैं स्पीकर साहब को भी कहूंगा, भी अब अंदर तो थे बाहर भी ये हमें गेटों पे घेर के अब शब्द बातें कर रहे हैं.
राहुल गांधी शर्म करो.
The remarks sparked immediate outrage, drawing sharp reactions from Sikh leaders across the political spectrum. Delhi Minister Manjinder Singh Sirsa demanded action against Rahul Gandhi. Soon, the war of words spilled back into the House. A day after Rahul Gandhi cited former Army Chief General M.M. Narawane's memoir in Parliament, the BJP responded with books of its own.
जो मथाई साहब, जो नेहरू साहब के पिए हुआ करते थे.
BJP MP Nishikant Dubey walked into the House holding books detailing alleged Congress scams, including Bofors. The move triggered loud protest from the opposition. Dubey was denied permission by the chair, but he went on.
जिन्होंने अय्याशी, मक्कारी और भ्रष्टाचार से पीड़ित इस कांग्रेस का हाल ये सारे देश को समझना चाहिए.
Papers were torn. Sheets were flung across the House. Torn pages flew back amid rising disorder.
निशिकांत दुबे जी तभी उठते हैं जब सरकार की इजाजत होती है, जब सरकार कहती है कि जाओ हाउस को डिसरप्ट करो. एलओपी को एक किताब जो प्रकाशित है, जो आज आपके सामने भी दिखाई है उन्होंने कि प्रकाशित किताब है, अमेज़न से खरीदी की गई प्रकाशित किताब है, उससे कोट नहीं करने दे रहे. आप नियम कह रहे हो कि ये नियम का उल्लंघन है. तो अब ये महाराज उठे हैं और ये 6 किताबें सामने दिखा रहे हैं, उनमें से कोट कर रहे हैं, आप कुछ नहीं कह रहे हैं. इनका माइक चला जा रहा है.
So while the nation looks to Parliament for answers on the budget, jobs and inflation, the House remains trapped in confrontation.
Here is a traitor walking right by.
Traitor versus patriot. Book versus book. Slogan versus slogan. A politics once again overwhelms governance. Bureau Report, India Today.
All right, joining me this evening, Rajat Sethi, political analyst, Ashutosh, political analyst, Lavanya Balal Jain, spokesperson of the Congress party, as well as Sanju Verma, national spokesperson, Bharatiya Janata Party. We'll also be joined very soon by one of the suspended MPs, Amrinder Singh Raja Varan, who has a thing or two to say, especially on what went down between the verbal duel of Rahul Gandhi and Mr. Bittu. But let's begin. Sanju Verma, to pull you into this conversation, the opposition charge is very clear. There's absolute trust deficit between the Treasury benches and the Congress and the opposition MPs rather, and the result of is what we see is constant disruption and adjournments.
Let's get one thing very clear. Leader of the opposition has to behave with a certain modicum of maturity, which is completely missing in Rahul Gandhi. This is a man for whom the word decorum is alien. And I just want to say a couple of things. Rahul Gandhi over the years wanted discussion in the parliament on inflation, on unemployment, on the Ram Mandir, on Pegasus, on Galwan, on Doklam. And every time the government of the day was willing to have a discussion, Rahul Gandhi went MIA. Do you remember? Ahead of Lok Sabha 2024, Gaurav Gogoi moved the no against the Modi government. And when Prime Minister discussed Manipur said there, Rahul Gandhi was MIA again. So the major point I'm making is that Rahul Gandhi is somebody in street and street politics. That's point number one. And point number two, more importantly, am I audible? Because hello.
Sanju Verma, we are having a bit of a problem with your audio. We're going to try and reconnect to your audio. There's a problem with your audio. We're going to try and reconnect that. Ashutosh, would you want to come in? Because this is a debate that happens once too many times as well. Two aspects to it. Of course, what happened inside Parliament, due to which we do not have a Prime Minister's speech this evening. And the second is what happened outside with the exchange between Rahul Gandhi and Mr. Avneet Singh Bittu, which has blown up into a completely different story.
No, I think the story of the day is that the Prime Minister didn't come to the Parliament and he did not address the Parliament on the presidential address. This is something which is unprecedented. I never heard something like this. And this is a bizarre situation because the leader of opposition is not allowed to speak and the Prime Minister is not giving his customary address to the Parliament. I had never heard something like this. That's a fundamental question. Rest are only, these are the tidbits in the Parliament, that's all. The second issue is Rahul Gandhi was not allowed to speak, quote from the book. But another member of the Parliament from the BJP was allowed to quote from the books and show those books. What is the role of a speaker here? That is also need to be questioned. What was the chair doing at that point of time? Are there two rules in the Parliament? One rule for the leader of opposition and another rule for the Parliament, for the government. The third point is, I think that's far more serious, that whether the House was misled by the senior cabinet ministers. Why I'm saying so? Because the book which was told to the Parliament that unpublished, that book was published. And then the book was withdrawn. Now the book was published. That's something which is on record. And I tweeted 2 days back on that the book was available on the online shelf of Amazon. And the date was also mentioned when the book was published. And the price and everything was there. Now, in the Parliament, it was said the book does not exist, is not published, so he can't quote. Now, the issue is, the book is published and the book is available. A book was available with Rahul Gandhi at least. And I know a few of my friends who also have this book. Now, the third point is, if Rahul Gandhi cannot speak anything which is not related to the presidential address, how come the BJP MP was allowed to speak not related to the presidential address? So the chair has to answer, and the House has to deliberate whether it was misled.
Okay. Ashutosh, your time is up. Fair point there. Rajat Sethi, would you want to come in? Because multiple charges that are flying thick and fast. Sanju Verma would have us believe that the Prime Minister or lots of Treasury benches MPs have come out and said that there was a possible conspiracy to attack the Prime Minister, and that is why he didn't come in. That's a little, a bit much, I would think, Rajat.
See, I'll not go into speculations, Preeti ji here, but let me just point out to kind of issues and sensationalization that Ashutosh ji was just doing. I'm a published author. I know even before the book is out in the market, the pre-sales of it goes live on Amazon. So let's not fool ourselves that, and also, by the way, certain copies are given to a lot of reviewers to review it in advance or provide comments in advance. Certain copies were given, but there is a government process, and this government process of vetting these books, especially after serving, senior leadership of the defense and the other critical positions retire, they need to seek permissions. This seeking permission business has been going on. This is how the country has been all these years, but nobody pointed this out. So first of all, there is no legal copy of this book available. Therefore, there is no apple-to-apple comparison between what the Treasury benches did on this. Again, I agree that if tabling a book is problematic, then all books should not be tabled into the floor of the House that way without seeking adequate rules. Whether those rules were properly invoked or not, that I'm not aware of. So I would refrain from commenting. But my last point is that where is this sensationalization of the issue coming from? Prime Minister has been amply clear that there are broad political lines that the political leadership draws. How do you achieve to those goals is being left to the defense leadership who's on the ground. He has said even in public domain several times. So I don't see where is this sudden knowledge descending upon Mr. Rahul Gandhi that he's trying to sensationalize and say that no, all the decision has been given away straight away to a military or an army leadership. That is my fundamental problem, that this sensationalization is deliberate, trying to mislead the country. If you are quoting from the book and quote the entire book then. The book also says that not a square inch of land was given to China. Would Rahul Gandhi come out and say and table and thank the current government that the leadership of this government ensured that not a square inch?
Your 2 minutes are over. I'll come back to you. You are... Right, okay, Rajat, your time is up. I'm going to come right back to you. You are right. At a level, yes, you've had the former army chief, Mr. Naravne, say that, that not an inch was given. But the fact is also, Rajat, that if former army chiefs are allowed to write books post-Kargil, why not, former army chief Naravne? Why wasn't his book be published? Why was it taken back? Lots of questions on that account where just the book is concerned. But Sanju Verma, who didn't complete her thoughts the first time around, go ahead, Sanju Verma, make your point.
Thank you, Preeti. I just want to add to what Rajat said. Let everybody on your show know one thing. There is something called Rule 21, Section 63 of the Armed Forces Act of 1954, which categorically gives the sitting government of the day, in this case, the Modi government, the prerogative via the Ministry of Defense to either approve or disapprove a book published by a former army chief from being published. This is not the first time it is happening. Preeti, let's also get one thing very clear. The Congress is sitting and waxing eloquent about how an army chief is being undermined. Let's not forget Sam Manekshaw, Field Marshal Sam Manekshaw, retired in 1973. He got his pension after 34 long years in 2007, just 1 year before his death in 2008. Why? His pension was withheld by Congress governments for 34 years because he told Indira Gandhi, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto made a monkey out of you. It was for something as basic as that. So I don't think the BJP needs lessons in propriety from the Congress, which has completely, जो कहते हैं ना, freedom of speech की धज्जियां उड़ा रखी हैं कांग्रेस सरकारों ने. And let me also say one more thing to you. There's a letter written by Pandit Nehru in public domain in 1952 where he calls the then army chief K.M. Karyappa as somebody who's gone off track and is unfit both mentally and otherwise. Imagine a sitting prime minister calling a sitting army chief in 1952 as mentally unstable. And I've never see the Darbari ecosystem, say anything but applaud Nehru for all his shenanigans. And my final point is this. After the horrific 26/11 Mumbai terror attack, the then IAF chief Fali Homi Major wanted to avenge and attack Pakistan, but the proxy government of Sonia Gandhi said nothing doing. This is how they treated the armed forces, as their own backyard acolytes. And they have the audacity now to lecture the Modi government. Itni hypocrisy ye naate kahan se hain?
All right, I want to bring in Lavanya Balal into this conversation. Lavanya, the fact is there's something that happened inside which we've debated, the sheer fact that the kind of chaos that erupted in Parliament resulting in adjournment now, which somewhere down the line did not allow the Prime Minister to speak. There's something that happened outside. And many today are looking at the language used by Rahul Gandhi for a former colleague. He might have crossed over to the BJP, but to call somebody traitor, do you think that's all right?
Good evening, Preeti. It's extremely disheartening as Indian citizens to watch the Prime Minister not address the Parliament. He shied away from addressing the Parliament, and his refusal to answer the multiple questions that I've raised in the past few weeks is extremely disheartening. The multiple issues being, one, Mr. Hardeep Puri being in touch with pedophile Mr. Epstein, the names being mentioned of our Prime Minister when it goes to, in Epstein files, and also the refusal of the Speaker to allow Mr. Rahul Gandhi to speak, and their claim, the books shouldn't be presented or it shouldn't be read out from the book, but the same rules does not apply for the BJP. There were multiple issues that Prime Minister could have addressed and clarified for the nation. It was his duty to do that because ultimately he leads the nation. And the Galwan issue as well. He should have given a clarity today to the nation and cleared it once for all. He refused to do all of that by walking away and not addressing the nation at 5 p.m. as he should have. Now, when we are talking about the propriety of the language that is being used, it is very, very mild to call someone a traitor because, of course, he is traitor to a cause of the Congress party. But what I see is the nation or a section of the nation is not talking about Congress ki vidwa. Or Mr. Modi, as a Prime Minister, calling Mr. Manmohan Singh as the only man who knows how to shower, wearing a raincoat. That was not hurtful, but this, a word called trait, is hurtful. A word like jersey cow or bachana is not hurtful, or 50 crore, 50 crore ka girlfriend is not hurtful, but a traitor is hurtful today. Double standards. But all we would like to say today is extremely disheartening the way Mr. Modi is leading the nation. It is not good administrative skills. It's extremely disappointing, and the nation expects much better from him.
All right,
Thank
okay,
you, Preeti.
Lavanya Balal, your time is up. I just want to bring in, one final comment where all four of our panelists this evening, because Ashutosh, how long is this going to continue? One thing I reckon is now clear, that the trust deficit is so much between the Treasury benches and the opposition leaders that it's also now reflecting not inside but outside the Parliament in the kind of language and the kind of exchange that we've seen. What is the point now? Every day, the kind of money that is wasted in terms of business being done in Parliament.
See, Preeti, I think a bizarre statement has been made on a channel that if one has to quote, then one has to quote the entire book. That means Rahul Gandhi should have quoted all 448 books, almost 150 words. Have you heard something like this? I haven't heard something like this ever. And I have quoted at least more than 500 books in my different books. So that's a bizarre argument. Second is, not an inch was given. Yes. Because of the valor of the army, not because of the decision taken by the political leadership. And that's the whole question. Why the political leader was absconding within court 8:15 to 10:30 with an express earlier order that army is not supposed to fire on the Chinese tanks. Now, for the 2 hours 15 minutes, the frenetic calls were made from the Northern Command to the army chief, and the army chief was making frenetic calls to the finance minister, to the foreign minister, to the defense minister, to the national security advisor, to the CDS, and no response. But within that 2 hour 15 minutes is a hell lot of time in the war, during the war situation. Why the Prime Minister was not available? And then you are saying, जो आपको करना हो करो, तो ये तो 8:32 पे भी कह सकते थे भाई. He would have said the same thing. The same instruction could have gone and said to 8:16, you do whatever you feel like. So it's a question of the decision-making issue. And don't forget that the Parliament has discussed China war when the war was on. Now that about Epstein file, why a proud country like ours and the government needed a pedophile, convicted pedophile, to bargain for India, lobby for India. Is it not shameful? If this is not shameful, then what is shameful? I do not know.
Okay. All right, Sanju Verma, 2 minutes. I want to quickly, take final comments. 2 minutes.
You know, Preeti, first and foremost, I want to completely debunk the absolute gibberish by the paid political analyst on your show, Ashutosh, who should be feeling ashamed.
Again, political personal comments not allowed. Personal comments not allowed.
Can I just, let's refrain from personal comments.
Personal comments.
One second, let's refrain from personal comments and let's also refrain from interjecting. I agree. Come on, okay. Can we freeze her time? Yes. You'll get as much time as you had asked, or, which is to be given to all panelists. But Sanju Verma, no personal comments were made on you. Please avoid doing so. Nobody likes it. I'm sure you don't like it as well. So let's just keep it there, right? Let's keep it civil. Go ahead, make your point.
Okay, Preeti, but please give me 30 seconds extra. I will not make personal comments, but I will not take it lying down when a political analyst, a paid one at that, Preeti, sits and undermines the Prime Minister. He's your Prime Minister. He's my Prime Minister. He's Lavanya Balal's Prime Minister. He's Ashutosh Gupta's Prime Minister. He's not just the BJP's Prime Minister. But let me come to the moot point. The moot point, Preeti, is this. Nehru gave away 38,000 square kilometers of Aksai Chin on a golden platter to the Chinese. And the Darbaris said, Wah ji wah. Nehru gave away large parts of Tia Kangna and Chapji Valley to the Chinese. Darbari said, Wah ji wah. Nehru gave away our extraterritorial rights in Tibet in 1954. The Darbari said, Wah ji wah. Nehru gave away the Haji Pir Park and the Darbari said, Wah ji wah. And let me say one more thing. In 1974, without taking approval of the parliament, Indira Gandhi gave away Kachativu Islands to Sri Lanka, saying it's a barren piece of land where only boulders and stones grow. So why the hell do we need to keep it with us? But most importantly, Preeti, I want to say one thing. There is something called Natwar Singh's book, One Life is Not Enough, where he talks about the shenanigans of Indira Gandhi with respect to Operation Blue Star. The entire Darbari ecosystem never wanted that book to hit the stands. Then there are the Mitrokin archives, which talk about how Indira Gandhi was a KGB asset. The Darbaris don't want us to talk about that. Then, former Prime Minister Narasimha Rao has written a book called The Insider, where he talks about the disadvantages of being a professional in a party which is led by Darbaris like Indira and Nehru. They did not want the Insider to be published. And let us not forget, M.O. Mathai's book, where he's spoken at length about his relationship with Indira Gandhi. Darbaris never wanted that book to be published. And then there is a book, The Unseen Indira Gandhi by K.P. Mathur, where he talks about Indira Gandhi's psychological...
Ma'am, your time is up. Your time is up. I'm going to cut across. I am going to cut across to Rajat Sethi and Lavanya Balal, but please allow me, I just want to go to Amrinder Singh Raja Waring, who is one of the suspended MPs for the rest of the budget session. Mr. Waring, thank you for taking the time out and joining us. I just want you to reflect, Mr. Waring, on what really happened today outside Parliament. Now, it is something that has been spoken of in Punjab, which has become a flashpoint where, Sikhism is concerned, where you have a huge, number of leaders from the BJP who are Sikh coming out and saying that today Rahul Gandhi, by calling Mr. Bittu a traitor, has insulted the community. Mr. Waring, can you hear me?
Tell me. Can you repeat it again? What are you saying? I thought that you were asking somebody else.
Yes. My question, Waring Saab, is that today what happened outside Parliament, the exchange between Rahul Gandhi and Mr. Bittu has now sparked massive debate in Punjab, where the BJP says you had Rahul Gandhi who insulted Sikhs by calling Mr. Bittu a traitor.
Saying something to Mr. Bittu, how can this is insult of the Sikhs? You just tell me. He have not said anything to the Sikhs. He said, Bittu, hello, my friend, traitor. He have not said anything to Sikhs. And do you know, have you heard the what Bittu says? Bittu says, अगर मैंने आज पगड़ी पहनी है, there is a, I can send you that recording of his recording while Bharat Jodo Yatra in Ludhiana, Punjab. He is saying this pagdi just because of Rahul Gandhi. He suggests me to wear the turban. You are a Sikh, just wear the turban. Rahul Gandhi have a respect about Sikhs and everybody, but he only said that, hello, my friend traitor. Nothing to Sikhs. He have a high respect for Sikhs. How can a person feels ki by something he is saying to Bittu and some other leader of this BJP who belong to this Sikh, and they are saying ki bhai, this is the insult of a one Sikh.
But Waring Saab, what was the need to use the word traitor? You know, do you think that
Because
could have been avoided?
No. Why? Yesterday, after the suspension, we are doing the peaceful protest outside the parliament and Makardwar. While that Bittu is coming towards us, he was saying कि भाई कारगिल से युद्ध जीत कर आए हो. He was passing this remarks to us. He said कारगिल से युद्ध जीत के आए हो. In between, Rahul Gandhi says, hello, my friend, traitor. Nothing more than that. So, isse you tell me, कि how can this BJP and other leader from the BJP are saying this is insult for the Sikhs? How can you compare this both of the things? कि भाई ये सिखों की तौहीन और बेइज्जती की गई है राहुल गांधी ने, कैसे?
Waring Saab, do you see this become a flashpoint? You have elections in 1 year right now, and every small thing, you understand, you're a politician yourself, Waring Saab. Every small thing that is said can be, blown out of proportion and used as political points.
So, suniye, this, what I believe, that are this Punjabi people, they understand what is the politics going on. So, people knows that what kind of respect Rahul Gandhi have in his mind, in his heart about the Sikhs, about the religion. Everybody knows this. I think comment to Bittu, जो traitor है, धोखा तो दिया है. And you can see the comments while on your debate coming comments from social media and other parts of the country. They said कि हाँ, किसने बनाया बिट्टू को? 3 बार member of parliament राहुल गांधी ने बनाया. यूथ कांग्रेस का अध्यक्ष बनाया.
So, Waring Saab, you're saying because, I remember at one point of time, Ambika Soni ji's seat, which he was to contest, went to Mr. Bittu only from the Congress. Seat. You're saying, your charge is that Rahul Gandhi's done, yes, so you're saying that Rahul Gandhi's done enough for Mr. Bittu, and what he said was not to attack a community, but a comment for Mr. Bittu
right
because he has
Rahul
left
Gandhi
the Congress.
Said this thing to him. Whole Punjab saying, everybody is saying that he is a Gadar. I don't want to use this word, to be very honest. But not only me and not only Congress party is saying this.
Waring Saab, he's using this word. But Waring Saab, you have Mr. Bittu calling Rahul Gandhi Desh ka Gaddar.
Or Rahul Gandhi is Desh ka Gaddar, you tell me. राहुल गांधी के परिवार के लोगों ने इस देश के लिए कुर्बानियां दी हैं. जान दी है. How is Gadar? You tell me that how he is Gadar. He is Gadar because he was earlier in the Congress party, member of parliament from the Congress, twice member of parliament, then thrice member of parliament, and after that, he is doing this kind of things with Amit Shah ji and Modi ji ki andar unko milna. He is in the Congress party and meeting the BJP people. So usko Gadar kehte hain. And yesterday what Rahul Gandhi wants to say
All
in the
right.
parliament.
Waring Saab, thank you for taking the time.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Waring Saab. Thank you for taking the time out and explaining to us on what you think, went where the parliament was concerned outside. Thank you.
Obsession with Korean culture isn't just trending online, it's now turning deadly. 3 teenage sisters, deeply influenced by Korean pop culture and denied access to their mobile phones, allegedly took their own lives. Ghaziabad is reeling from this shocking tragedy. The sisters reportedly jumped from the 9th floor of a residential building early Wednesday. The incident happened around 2:30 a.m. in Bharat City, leaving neighbors terrified and a community in shock.
The very spot where the bodies of the young girls were found, this is now completely cordoned off, and several questions remain on whether the parents did something to in fact offer help to the children. If there was addiction, was any sort of professional help sought? It is being said that the children were being prohibited by the parents to overindulge in online gaming activities, but was any professional help sought?
The girl's father has claimed a Korean online game may have played a role. According to him, the game had 50 tasks, with the last one scheduled on Tuesday. He also claimed the middle daughter acted as the leader, giving commands, and that the sisters had kept the game secret from everyone.
एक मोबाइल था, उसी में खेलते थे, वो भी पुलिस के पास है।
वो पुलिस के?
हाँ जी, हाँ जी।
और तीनों बच्चे एक गेम खेलते थे या सेपरेट?
नहीं, गेम भी खेलते थे, वीडियो भी डालते थे, यूट्यूब चैनल बना रखा था कोरियर का उन्होंने।
कोई जानकारी कुछ पुलिस ने बताया हो आपको? ये बार को केस ट्रांसफर होगा?
हाँ, ये बताया था उन्होंने कि वो डार्क वेबसाइट होती है कोई, उससे करा था उन्होंने, तो उसके जरिए कार्रवाई करेंगे वो।
Police recovered a suicide note that provides insight into the girl's state of mind. It read, "Please read everything in this diary. Everything written is true. I am really sorry, Papa." The note also had a scribbled crying face. Eyewitnesses say one sister tried to jump while the other two tried to stop her, but tragically all three fell.
जब मैंने मैम को बुलाया तो वहाँ से सीन वो गायब हो चुका था। मैंने बोला जस्ट वेट, मैं 100% श्योर हूँ कि कुछ ना कुछ तो गलत है।
हमें ये बच्चे हैं ये नहीं पता, वो मुझे लग रहा था कि कोई फैमिली मैटर होगा, हस्बैंड वाइफ होंगे। हमने ये तक अज्यूम किया कि कोई हस्बैंड ड्रंक होगा, बैलेंस नहीं बन रहा होगा, वाइफ संभाल रही होंगी, हमने यही अज्यूम किया था। और जब हम नीचे गए तब हमें पता चला कि देयर वाज 3 गर्ल्स, बच्चियां थी वो।
Contrary to father's claims, the police have clarified that no online game caused the deaths. There was no Korean love game. The diary shows the girls were influenced by Korean culture, K-pop, movies, music, short films and shows, and were distressed because their mobile phones had been restricted. Since the pandemic, the girls had not attended school, reportedly due to weak academics and financial difficulties.
ये जो बच्चे थे, 3 बच्चे थे, आपने हमें बताया कि ये बच्चे स्कूल तक नहीं जाते थे।
कोरोना के टाइम से स्कूल नहीं जा रहे थे, उससे पहले कोरोना तक तो गए थे, उसके जो कोरोना हुआ था तो फिर बंद कर दिया था जाना।
Police also revealed the father had 2 marriages, 1 daughter from the first wife, 2 from the second, with the whole family living together. The bodies have been sent for post-mortem while police continue investigating family members, mobile phones and digital activity to understand the full circumstances behind this heartbreaking incident. The truth is still unfolding. 3 teens are dead and police are looking for answers behind this tragic loss. With Sneha Mordani and Himanshu Mishra in Ghaziabad, Bureau Report, India Today.
As shocking, as disconcerting, it is the truth. I'm joined right now by Aarti C. Rajaratnam, author and psychologist, Jitin Jain, cybersecurity expert. First, though, I'd like to cut across to Dr. Kiran Bedi, former IPS officer, former Lieutenant Governor, Puducherry. Dr. Bedi, thank you for taking the time out and joining us. The details of this story are horrifying and gives you a small glimpse on what we really are, where we are standing when we look at, teenage health. Read it in conjunction with what the economic survey says of limiting social media time where children are concerned, simpler devices, not where gaming, not getting them into gaming, all of that coming together. How do you read the situation?
Well, obviously, it's a disjointed family, apparently so far. Also, the girls were living in a virtual world. They were not having basically a cohesive, warm home. I think they were living in a virtual world and obviously getting affected by whatever they were seeing, whether it's a Korean culture or Korean movies or whatever was Korean. And they were, and also off school. I think so. It's a disjointed family and totally appear to be addicted to the phones. So it's basically, look, this doesn't happen overnight. It's been a growth, and as the father himself says, the girls never went back to school after COVID. Now, is that right? In fact, why would they? Why were efforts not made by the parents to send them back to school? And so, therefore, it's a disjointed family, virtual world, which is not communicating. Parents are not visibly communicating with the children. All the children in this situation do need controlled management. You can't deny them the access to the screen and manage it, and you can communicate with the children. I think it's nothing but a parental failure. Certainly not school, because they've never been going to school. They never went to school. They were not going to school for the COVID was finished many years ago. So obviously it's a clear case of parental failure, and they're fully responsible for this.
Ms. Rajaratnam, do you reckon it's one-off case parental failure like Dr. Bedi is suggesting? Or do you think it's more to do with the times that we live in and the kind of exposure young teenagers have to gaming and social media?
Assuming it's a suicide, because I know the investigations are still on, I'd like to set three things in context. It's very easy to blame certain people, etc. But we have to realize that technology has become much larger than it was anticipated to become even, say, 20 years back. Now, having said that, the second aspect of what I'd like to bring up here is at different ages, children learn through different tools. And in the teen years, and all three are teenagers, in the teen years, relationships, especially peer relationships, are extremely important. All of my lessons for life come because my identity shifts from family towards the peer group. Here, if you notice, apart from the three of them, they didn't seem to have any kind of connect with a peer group from what the basic details are. So having said that, there are a lot of things that, the teenage brain at this point in time cannot, it's driven by emotion. It does not access the problem-solving areas of the brain much easier. The risk-taking behaviors are much higher. Hormonal influences are very high. So there are so many things. So it's like the brain is going through the second brain revolution, and that's a very, very tricky age. Having said this, screens are like toxins. Toxins kill you slowly. You don't understand that it's not like a poison where it's in your environment and it can kill you. It builds slowly. And specifically with this game, the basic data that I have is that, the initial levels were very easy. And as it went higher, the ask was very, very high. And it led to this, the death of the three girls. This is very typically how abusive relationships in real life also work. Initially, it's very easy. You think that this is a rosy picture, the relationship will work. And then once you're stuck in the relationship and you develop some kind of attachment, it starts becoming difficult. So that's really where this is. So I wouldn't put it on parental failure as much as I would put it on the fact that we have deprived a learning brain of the basic ecosystem that it requires to develop a healthy way or a healthy, robust functioning. So when we have denied that, I think to just place the onus on K-pop, to place the onus on parents, on internet, etc., is not right. I think it's an entire ecosystem, and we'll have to look at it as it has to be looked at.
Well, thank you for the insights, Ms. Rajaratnam. Mr. Jain, to bring you in, because there are a lot of parents out there whose kids are into gaming, and especially where teenage kids are concerned today, most teenage kids are into gaming. What is it in terms of safeguards, in terms of boundaries that parents now need to build? Because this case might be a one-off, but it is deeply disconcerting.
ETC, now this is not about the games anymore. If you look at these games, they have got inbuilt multi-user playing environment where you can talk to people, video chat with them. So you're playing with number of people. You can do online purchases. You can play unlimited. There is intentional or unintentional exposure. Online grooming, sexual exploitation, sometimes radical and harmful violence in terms of stickers, avatars. So this is a complete virtual world. It's not a game anymore. And all these, apps like TikTok or, games like Roblox where you can design your own game. These are, social networks disguised as games. And these games are not selling any sort of education or entertainment. They are selling addiction. And, it is like you are handing over, mobile phones. It's like, giving alcohol to children and then blaming the bottle. We have literally set them in an unregulated, unsupervised digital world where they have no remedies to seek help. Look at this girl. They were absolutely cut off from any social circle, no school, no friends, no education. And then they're writing they're feeling lonely. So it is not about a particular game or an app. Look, even countries like China, which are the originator of all these games, which are making maximum revenue for the games like PUBG, even a couple of years back, they had to come up with regulations like, for particular games, for a particular age segment, we will only allow 1 hour of time limit to be played, 2 hour of time limit to be played. Here in this country, we have literally thrown our society under the bus where everybody is supposed to come in and monetize our society based on data. There are no rules, no regulations, no women and child ministry doing anything. I mean, I have seen in places like Uttar Pradesh, children of the barbers, farmers, they're not going to school. They are playing PUBG for 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours. And if you take away their mobile phone, they turn violent.
True.
You have seen many of the episodes where children are stealing the credit cards of their parents and doing monetary transactions, and there is a dark reality how these free games monetize. I mean, they once they sell addiction, they want you to be under peer pressure. They want you to have better avatars. They want you to buy different skins. They want you to cross different levels, and they are offered not by level. You can purchase and buy them. So children, even youngsters or teenagers, they end up using money of their parents and buy these avatars. And so there is this dark world of monetary exploitation hidden in these apps and social networks, which is completely unregulated. So no matter what you do, no matter what we debate, unless and until you have a regulatory body which can curb the time you're spending on this app, which can actually analyze an app.
Right.
I mean, 95% of parents don't even know what kind of game the child is playing. They just see some cartoons and they think it is harmless. So, you have to have a regulator, and also, you can't allow a phone to become your parent. You can't allow a phone to become your parent.
No, fair point. I really, I'm glad that we had three very distinct points of views. Thank you for taking the time out. It's something I think I'm going to do now and get all three of you back, and we can maybe in detail discuss on what we can really move towards, because cases like this, maybe once in a way shock you. But then something needs to be done, and needs to be in terms of, even if it's a mere discussion, to discuss various facets of it. I thank all three of you for joining us, taking the time out this evening.